everything is not a demon. I'm going to keep saying that. Everything is not demonic. Everything is not an attack of the enemy. Everything is not the devil. If we continue to over spiritualize everything and just call everything in our lives a spiritual attack, we leave no room to deal with our human reality. Church talk is not going to heal us. The only thing that church talk is going to do, the only thing that them phrases going to do is just going to continue to hide us. You know, what happens when accountability goes missing? What happens when we're not accountable for the things that we do? This is what happens. We repeat cycles. Patterns go unchecked. Come on, I know I'm talking good. Hurt people are going to continue to hurt people. I'm not always fighting the devil, and you ain't always fighting the devil. A lot of times we are fighting the consequences of our choices. So if we want to heal, our healing is going to begin when our blame shifting ends. We have to learn to be more accountable for our actions. Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Whole, Healed, and Healthy. Yeah, man, I'm excited to be back. But before we get started, listen, I got an announcement. Listen, y'all see I've been rocking these hoodies faithfully every week. I need you to run to my website right now, www.wh2.org. Grab you a hoodie. It's cold outside, and I want you warm while you're walking through your healing journey. So I have hoodies and I have t-shirts. Just, if you want a way to support the channel, to support the movement, you can grab a hoodie, you can grab a t-shirt, and wear your healing out loud, because I want you to be whole, healed, and healthy. All right, no more announcements. Let's hop right in. We are on episode number 6, and we are calling this the accountability episode. So this stems from a thought that I've had, something that I've been talking through for a while. And what I'm about to say, I don't mean, your church. I'm talking in general. These are some principles and things that I feel like the church teaches or does not teach. Whatever. But I feel like the church does not teach accountability, and they don't do and if they do teach it, I don't feel like they do a very good job at teaching it. I feel like the church is very good at shifting the blame. All the good that happens in our lives, it's always God did it. God did it. God did it. I take nothing away from God. I'm not saying that God does not work, but he does, because I know that God works. But then all the bad that happens in our lives, what do? We instantly blame the devil. Man, the devil is working. The devil is doing this and doing that. And it's like at some point, I feel like, we as people, we as adults have to start taking accountability for our actions, right? We have to do a better job at taking accountability for our actions. Now, this is something that I'm working through, that I've been working through, because at one point in my life, I would preach and I would teach messages that were rooted in this theology. It was like God gets all the glory, God made it happen. But then when it doesn't work out, we can just simply blame the devil, because the devil is always busy in our lives. It was never like, I put the work in. It was never I was in the gym shooting. It was never I put the work in or anything that I did. It was always I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. God gets all the glory. And then the instant that it doesn't work out, I just say, well, you know what? The devil was busy. But we have to change that. And I hope today that we can do that. We're going to talk about that. I want to create some healthy tension. Some of y'all probably already want to leave a comment like, oh, you talking crazy. But no, I'm not talking crazy. I'm talking the truth. I feel like this is this has been a lot of our experience. And so I want to create some healthy tension so that we can confront these things and really help to bring a change in our lives, right? Because we have to. That's my thing. I want us to stop being stuck, and I want us to be able to move forward and live free, live free in our lives. So blame shifting culture is something that's real. I think a lot of us have grown up in spaces where we over spiritualize everything. Everything was a spirit, whether it was a clean spirit, whether it was an unclean spirit, whether it was God moving or whether it was the devil moving. Like, we've learned to over spiritualize everything. Think about how many times you've heard the devil's attacking my finances, but then you never heard somebody say, but I know I need to budget better, or I know I need to plan better, or I know I need to have some self-control and some discipline in my spending habits. We hear people always say like the enemy is trying to ruin my relationships, but people refuse to set boundaries. I'm one of those people. people. They've refused to take accountability about that. We refuse to take accountability. We lack accountability. I can't talk. Or we just have no type of self-awareness. I'm that person is me. I've been that person. I'm just talking through some things and thinking through some things. Like, I can remember, when people would leave the church, or something would happen at the church, and then it would instantly become like, oh, the devil is destroying his church. He trying to cause division. But we never would talk about, people were leaving because maybe they were being mistreated, or how leadership would never address any issues in a healthy way, that will help to hold people accountable and to bring restoration. That was real, true restoration. It was always the devil. It was always the devil is busy. And so, I've been screaming this from the mountaintop, and I'm going to keep saying it. Everything is not a demon. I'm going to keep saying that. Everything is not demonic. Everything is not an attack of the enemy. Everything is not the devil. If we continue to over spiritualize everything and just call everything in our lives a spiritual attack, we leave no room to deal with our human reality. Man, I've been on that big. We have to leave space to deal with our human reality. We have to leave space to deal with and heal from our traumas. We have to balance our spirituality and our humanity. Like, we have to. If we want to be healthy, we have to learn how to balance the both. We have to learn how to balance both, right? We have to. And that's something that I've been saying, because it's something that I've been really working through in my life, is that I don't want to over spiritualize everything. And at the same time, I don't want to just create a space where there is no room for God to do the work in my life. I don't want to seem like I'm not in tune with what God is doing. So learning how to balance both is needed. If everything is spiritual and everything is an attack, then I never leave space to deal with the things that I'm really going through. Again, we're talking about how the church doesn't do a very good job at teaching accountability. And when we always tell people that something in their lives is the devil, is a demon, it's demonic, then people will just always resort, and there's nothing wrong with resorting to prayer, but people will always resort to prayer, and people won't look inward and say, maybe I do need to deal with some traumas. Maybe I do have some unhealed areas in my life that I know I need to put the work in, right? And that comes from something that I learned early on in church. Had no clue what it was, but it was called spiritual bypassing. I talk about it a lot, and it's probably something that a lot of us did without even knowing that we were doing it. And some of us probably still do it to this day. So if you don't know what spiritual bypassing is, it's just my simple definition is that when we just use spiritual phrases or church phrases to avoid dealing with our reality. Right? We bypass what we're really going through, or we bypass what we're feeling, all in the name of it's spiritual, or it's God, or it's an attack, or it's this, or it's that. Like, and I talked about this in the faith, in my faith episode, in my unbelief episode, where I really had to face the reality that I had both faith and fear operating in my life, and I had to be able to honor both if I wanted to move forward and really heal and deal with the situation that was at hand. So if you haven't had an opportunity, go watch that episode. So we say stuff like, I'm just trusting God, or I'm going through this for somebody else, or it's my Job experience, or the enemy is attacking me, right? Like, we say these things and they sound good, but we are not acknowledging how we feel. We're not acknowledging our feelings. Sometimes we're not even acknowledging the fact that I had some actions that created this situation that I'm currently in, right? I don't acknowledge that, hey, I made some choices that led me down the path where I'm at. So instead of acknowledging my choices, I just say, man, God is just, this is just a test. God is trying to test me and create character in my life. Like, I want to sound so spiritual. I want to sound so deep. But the truth is, I'm skipping everything that matters because I don't want to deal with it again. I'm telling you, these are just principles at the church that I feel, again, y'all can argue in the comments. I'm not going to argue with you, but these are just things that I feel that the church has taught us. It has taught us how to bypass. It has taught us how not to take accountability. It has taught us how to be great, great actors and actresses. Yeah, it has. Listen, this is the reality, right? I can't grow. Not just me, you, but we can't grow if everything is somebody else's fault. When I say somebody else's fault, if it's the devil's fault, if it's your neighbor's fault, if it's your mama's fault, if it's your daddy's fault, listen, if everything is everybody else's fault, we cannot grow. Church talk is not going to heal us. The only thing that church talk is going to do, the only thing that them phrases going to do, is just going to continue to hide us. We hide behind it. And I can talk about it because I've done it. I can talk about it because I'm working through it, because sometimes I still do it. And it's something that is it's just an honest truth, right? It's an honest truth. We never take ownership, and that costs us something. It costs. Never taking ownership has a cost. What happens when accountability goes missing? What happens when we're not accountable for the things that we do? This is what happens. We repeat cycles. Patterns go unchecked. Come on, I know I'm talking good. Hurt people are gonna continue to hurt people. Man, you can pause right there and you can just start to think about some things in your life or some people that you've been around, and they always have a reason why something's going on in their life, and you can look at them like, bro, like, dog, you need to stop spending money. That's why you can't. That's why you don't have no money, because you need to stop spending money. But the first thing it says, like, the devil's attacking my finances. Like, we can think about these things. Apologies never happen. Have you ever met somebody who never apologizes because everything is somebody else's fault? And this is what really gets, really begins to happen, is that environments start to become unsafe. It's no longer a safe space. Leaders can't be corrected. They become untouchable, right? Like, you can't say anything to a leader. You can't, point out something that they may have done that hurt you. Ultimately, people become emotionally fragile. That's big, because when people are emotionally fragile, anytime you confront them with something, it always feels like an attack. I can talk about it because I've been on the end of being emotionally fragile, and then I've been on the end of trying to confront people or talk about things that we need to talk about, and they said I was attacking them. So this is not a space that I'm coming from where I'm like, just making it up. It's a space that I've lived in, a reality that I've lived, and it's a reality that I am currently healing through. Right, whole, healed, and healthy. I'm bringing y'all along for the healing journey. So I understand that spiritual warfare is real. I understand that, and I know that. But hear me out. I also understand and know that everything that happens in my life is not a result of spiritual warfare. Everything in my life is not a demon. And I keep saying that. Some things are trauma. Some things are choices that we keep making. Some things are lack of boundaries. Come on, man. I know I'm telling the truth. Some things are a lack of discipline and self-control. And ultimately, some things are just a result of our own actions. I'm not always fighting the devil, and you ain't always fighting the devil. A lot of times we are fighting the consequences of our choices. The choices that we make, we're fighting those consequences. So if we want to heal, our healing is going to begin when our blame shifting ends. We have to learn to be more accountable for our actions. It doesn't mean that we beat ourselves up. It doesn't mean that we shame ourselves, but really we just become more self-aware about the choices that we've made and that the choices that we're making, right? Because it's an ongoing thing. Healing is not a one-stop shop. It is a continual process. And so we're going to continue to make choices, and we have to be self-aware of the choices that we make. We have to tell ourselves the truth so that we can grow. The moment we begin to own our actions and own our story, that's the moment that I feel that we can begin to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like, the phrase people love to say, I'm living in my truth. I'm walking in my truth. Once I begin to walk in my truth, come on, man, I know that I can begin to heal. I talk about hard conversations all the time. We have to continue to have these hard conversations. Sometimes it's going to begin with, this is what happened. This is what I did, and this is what I need to do to change. Those are three things that I have to constantly, rehearse with myself. Hey, this is what happened. This is what I did in that situation, and this is what I know I need to do to change so that this situation doesn't happen or doesn't keep happening, right? So we have to have hard conversations, and that means that we're just being more self-aware. I'm going to keep saying this, and I'm going to say it, and y'all going to be sick of me. Learn to balance your humanity and your spirituality so that you don't have to sacrifice either one of those. You can have both. We can have both. I know that I can be human, and I know that I can walk in all of my spirituality and not sacrifice either one. I can have both. It's not either or. I believe that God cannot heal the version of me that refuses to tell the truth. So my accountability it has to honor the healing that I've been praying for. I'm doing all this praying. I'm doing all this, God help me, God restore me, God, all this praying of the things that I want God to do. But if I'm not accountable to my actions, then those prayers, it doesn't matter. Those prayers don't mean anything. So my accountability, the humanity in me, should be honoring the spiritual side of me, which is the things that I'm praying for, that the spiritual work that I want God to do in my life. And I think that a way that you'll begin to notice that your accountability is honoring the prayers that you've been praying is that you'll start to see the changes, right? So you'll start to notice your patterns. You'll notice what triggers you. You will notice, the cycles that you may be in. You're definitely gonna notice the habits that are draining you. I think you'll see where you don't have boundaries. You have to start setting more boundaries, and then you really ultimately just realize that everything is not an attack. Like, I think that's when you really begin to see, like, hey, like the prayers that I'm doing, they're working. All right, so let's talk about the spiritual side for just a few minutes, because I know that I've been talking a lot about the things that we can control and owning our actions and being a lot more responsible. But I do want to bring some balance to this thing, because we have to have balance. So the Bible speaks about a gift called the discerning of spirits. It's not discernment. I think everybody has discernment. Discernment is really just being able to judge, whether something is right or wrong, whether something is for you, whether it's not. So that's discernment. But the discerning of spirits is a gift that God gives us from the Holy Spirit that really is used to help to distinguish, the origin of something. Helps us to distinguish, people's motives, whether things are from God, whether they're, from the enemy, an attack, as we like to say, or whether it's just simply, something that's human, right? And so I believe that a key in learning to balance our humanity along with our spirituality is really tapping into having the gift of the discernment of spirits. Because if I can discern the origin of something and know whether it is of God or not, it helps me to know what to pray for, how to pray, and then it helps me how to maneuver and what to do next in my life. It helps me to find the areas where I need to heal from, the areas where I may need deliverance. Come on, man. Come on. Again, I know I talk a lot about deconstructing my faith and things like that, but I still know what's real, and I still believe in the power of God, and I still believe in the power of deliverance, and I believe in the gifts of the Spirit, and I believe in, the things that God has given us, the tools that he gives us to help make our lives so much easier. And if we can take these tools and use them together, that's how we balance and walk this walk out. You don't have to have more of one and less of the other. We have both. So when I say discerning of spirits and the gift of discerning of spirits, that should be used to help us to determine and to distinguish the root and the origin of things in our lives. If there's an area in my life that I just cannot break through in, then yeah, maybe it is an attack. Maybe there is something spiritual behind it. So I may have to go pray a little bit more. I may have to go fast. I'll probably have to seek God and ask God for wisdom and knowledge and understanding so that I can overcome that thing. But I don't just automatically assume that everything in my life is an attack of the enemy. And I also just don't assume that everything in my life is just based on some type of trauma or some hurt that I've experienced or something like that. I can balance the two and use all the tools. I can use my coping tools to help me with my human side, to help me cope with my feelings. And I can use the tools of the Spirit to help me to discern what's going on, to help me to distinguish, to help me figure out where something came from so I know how to pray and I can get a plan of action on how to overcome it so that I can stop the cycle. Yeah, so I know that I talk a lot about controlling myself and controlling my actions and controlling our actions. But don't get it twisted. Your boy still believes. Your boy still understands the power that I have. Your boy still knows the power that God has given me. So I want us all to understand that yeah, I'm balancing my humanity and my spirituality, but I'm using them together to become the best me that I can be. Now you can go ahead and send your offering Matter of fact, don't even send the offering. Go buy a t-shirt. Go buy a hoodie. That's your offering. But I hope y'all understand that is that, yeah, like I know and I understand that I am a human being, that we're all humans, but the power that God gives us, the gifts that he gives us, we should be able to use those to help us navigate through our lives so that we can live a much better life, so that I can be whole, healed, and healthy, because I know that that's what God would have for me, right? Amen. Amen. All right. As we close after that good preaching and teaching moment, you know what I'm saying? I think it's time that we go ahead and come on to the altar. We've had our Kojic closing, Ebe Idibo, and it's time for us to come on to the altar. But no, seriously, listen. I think that we know and we understand that, yeah, there are things in our lives that are spiritual. There are things in our lives that are emotional, things that are trauma based, and ultimately, a lot of the things that happen in our lives, that it stems from the choices that we make, right? I think that growth and maturity has helped, and is just continuing to help me just learn to balance all those areas, just to balance everything in my life. I know and I believe that God has already given us the power. He's given it to me, and I believe that God has given it to you. My prayer is this. My prayer is that we simply have the courage to face ourselves, right? We let go of excuses. We let go of the blame. We let go of all the church phrases that we've been hiding behind because it's easy to bypass. Come on, that we're able to see clearly what is spiritual. That's why I talked about the gift of discerning of spirits, that God would give us the clarity to see what is from him, what is not, and what is just our own soulish desires and our own fleshly desires. Oh man, I ain't about to start preaching and using church terms, stuff like that. But what is just really our own desires? What's human, right? My prayer is that we heal the parts of us that we avoided because we needed to survive. That's deep to me, and that's personal to me, because there are a lot of things in my life that I put to the back burner and I put to the side because I just knew that I just needed to survive. And I pray that we continue to find the grace to heal the parts of us that we're still learning to face. Come on, man. This is not a marathon. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and every day we need new grace, because as we continue to walk through this journey and peel back the layers in our lives, we're going to find things that we don't want to face, and we have to be able to give ourselves grace. So I pray that you give yourself the grace that you need. You give yourself the grace that you deserve to heal and to face all the things in your life that you don't want to face, because I'm doing it with you. We're walking this journey together. We're walking it together. Accountability is going to be our path to peace. As we're accountable, I pray that accountability helps us find peace. Man, I love y'all, and I mean that. So until next time, remember this: God wants every part of you whole, healed, and healthy. I'll see you next time.